Glow is the project with which we wanted to create an immersive and relaxing environment where players have not been before. It is set in a futuristic city where our visual style of choice was minimalistic, clean, and simple. With Glow, our team wanted to focus primarily on how players interact with light and how they can be aided by the light in order to progress through the game. By having a specific set of the so-called power sources scattered around the environment, we wanted to encourage players in actually exploring that environment while still having an objective for them to reach. Our goal with this project was to create a relatively short and relaxing immersive virtual environment while keeping players intrigued with the help of a unique visual style and intuitive interaction. We also wanted to provide such an atmosphere for players where they don't have to worry about time or a complex narrative. Essentially, we really wanted to eliminate all potential barriers that could prevent players from being relaxed. Which is why our focus with this project was sensory immersion and how we can evoke positive audiovisual sensation in our players. Once the game starts, players spawn in a relatively compact room with one open cryopod, which players just emerge from, as well as a couple other closed ones, which hints at the possibility that the character is not alone in this world. We wanted to expose players to a confined space first, so we can contrast it with an actual city, which is revealing itself to players as they leave the starting room. Such contrast and gradual revelation helps build up the interest and intrigue. In addition to the contrast in terms of scale, we wanted to provide players with contrast in terms of light, which is why we are presenting a dark city first, which gets lit up as players intuitively interact with the in-game objects. Upon interaction, we provide feedback in the form of ambient and relaxing sounds, as well as striking visuals that show how individual buildings and city blocks are being lit up. Careful positioning of each interactive power source along the hexagonal city areas encourages players to explore more. Last but not least, we wanted players to have control over changing the environment around them. In order to support our project's goal in helping players relax, our team decided to focus on implementing sensory immersion framework without putting too much emphasis on challenge-based or imaginative immersion frameworks. Having decided on a minimalistic style, we moved on to researching and editing ambient sound effects to better implement the sensory immersion. Light was also a crucial factor in the design process, as we wanted to create a visually pleasing and relaxing glow effect as possible. However, after we conducted user testing sessions, we found out that at least some fraction of a challenge-based immersion had to be implemented in order to provide a more engaging and rewarding experience when players are looking for interactive power sources. We decided to address that concern by locating each consequential power source in the more harder-to-reach areas than the previous one, thus increasing the difficulty level as players progress through the game.
Our team initially began with a different set of ideas, which we then started shaping and evolving into what Glow is today. We went through multiple design iterations, among which the biggest change was the simplification of the project, which we decided to focus on one immersion framework and polish it instead of trying to implement everything in our game. We constantly tested if player was able to complete our game from start to finish without getting stuck. So we were constantly making changes to our game to eliminate all annoyances. When our team first discussed the gameplay mechanics, we decided to make something new and possibly something that hasn't been explored in such detail before, which is why we focused on lighting and glow effects as the main navigational tools in the environment, as well as a source of a unique audiovisual experience.
Our initial goal was to provide players with a wireless PS3 controller to control the character instead of keyboard and mouse, since controllers are more intuitive for non-gamers. Even for those people who might be inexperienced with PS3 controller, we mapped a really small amount of buttons. For example, the left analog stick helps move the character in the world, while the right analog stick helps turn the first-person camera for looking around. We also mapped every other button other than the left and the right analog sticks for jumping action, since jumping is necessary for players to get a certain power source.
We hooked up the game to a 52-inch TV monitor and connected the wireless headset, as well as a wireless PS3 game controller, in order to provide a better immersive environment for the player. We also used two shelves and metal grids as the frame and two large pieces of black cloth to create an individual personal space for the player to play the game inside.